So with all the members that we're expecting, I will call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. on Monday, December 6th. This meeting is being recorded and minutes are being done by Gail Hunter, who has been doing our minutes for a long time, remarkably. And we just had a meeting last Thursday where we moved ahead on the Water Resources Protection Task Force under CONCOM. We won't be discussing that tonight, but I wanted to make sure that since that was a meeting that was fairly sparsely attended, that everybody was on board and understood that. So we'll go to our first agenda item, which is any public input on items not on the agenda. Okay. We'll move to our first amended agenda item, which is the interview of Amy Lee Connors for the Sustainability Committee. Hi, Amy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We're glad you made it.
Thank you.
After a couple of false starts, we're glad that you're here, and we want to understand a little bit about your interest in the Sustainability Committee and what you think you bring to it.
Okay, well, I live in town and I am really passionate about sustainability and composting in particular. And so I'd seen some signs. I think I saw the Zero Waste Challenge. One, I don't remember when it was, but I saw it and I was really intrigued by that because that's something I've been trying to do with my family. You know, I am really strict about composting with my kids, and I'm always telling my friends about what you can compost and what you can't. And I'm always pulling cans out of, you know, at people's parties and doing that. So it's such a natural thing for me because I'm so passionate about it. And I saw it and I went, I love that they're doing the Zero Waste Challenge, because I think that a lot of people care about the environment, but maybe don't have all the resources that they need, or they could just be more you know, there's more that you can learn. There's more information that can be out there. So when I saw the Zero Waste Challenge, I thought, you know, that's really the goal, because it seems like recycling is good for the environment. Doesn't seem like it's as impactful as composting, or just in general living like more of a zero waste lifestyle. So I love that challenge because I think it really gets people to think about the way that they consume things and their role, you know, in their role in that. So when I saw that, I was intrigued, and then I wanted to learn more about the committee. And it's funny because I'm super busy. I'm a single mom. I'm a real estate attorney, and I've got 3 kids, and I'm really busy, but I care so much about it. I said, oh, gee, I really want to see if I can somehow get myself involved and help out in some way, because it's just something I really care a lot about.
Okay. Have you had any opportunity to attend a Sustainability Committee meeting?
Yes, I had. I was able to attend one meeting so far. I think there have only been 2 meetings since I've been interested in the position.
Okay. Okay. Let me open this up to questions from other members of the board.
If I may, Jeff?
Go ahead, Becky.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Glad to see you here. Thank you very much for stepping up. It does seem that many of us are pretty busy. And it's nice that you're willing to find time to make this happen. And you and I have already talked about that. I'll let someone else on the board ask you about that. But what I wanted to know is when you look at the town of Manchester, is there one thing that you find in terms of sustainability that we're doing right or well? And what do you think would be our greatest challenge at this point in terms of sustainability?
Thank you for the question. So I do see a lot of people composting, and I know that the numbers don't show everybody. It seems like everyone would like participation to be higher, but there are still a lot of towns on the North Shore that don't even have a composting program. So I think in general, we got to look at it that, we do have the composting program through Black Earth that makes it much more accessible to the residents. So I do see a lot of people with the composting bins outside. So I feel that that's wonderful. To me, that's a great start. I think what we could do better is I do think people could be more educated about how important it is to compost, how I think the goal is more about a zero waste or less waste than it is about like recycling everything. I'm seeing people with tons of recycling, especially during the holidays. It's like boxes on boxes of cardboard, and there might be some things that people are putting into their recycling that could be composted. So maybe diverting. It's really, I think, just educating people, even on just one or two small changes people in the community can make. Because I think in a community like this, we're dealing with like pretty educated people who probably care about the environment, who probably think they're doing all the right things. And it's not that anyone's doing the wrong things, but there might be one or two things people could be doing differently that would make a big difference. So I think that would be a good area to focus on, but without criticizing people. You don't want to, you know what I mean? Just say like, what you're doing is wrong, because that's not how you get people to make a permanent change in their lives.
And just a quick follow-up to that. Thank you for those. In terms of educating, what mode do you find most effective that you would help bring to the town?
Well, I'm pretty savvy with Instagram and social media. So I do think that's actually pretty good. It's not a bad way to get some messaging out there. And I also think getting some of the youth involved, because once the kids are involved, so like Allison had given me a video to share, and it's like, once the kids are involved and they're thinking about it and talking about it, then they're going home and they're sharing that information, with their family. So I think, and I've got 3 kids, young kids too. So I think that those would be two ideas. I think use of social media. I also love the idea of posting things in the paper, like giving people sustainability tips. So rather than like, I like the idea of like giving people tips, because I mean, sometimes I'll tell people, I'm like, oh, you can compost paper towels. They're like, what? I didn't know that. So it's just like, sometimes people just need like a tip, something like that. Like that to me is like a nice way to give the information, and maybe some events or challenges like with kids about composting, sustainability, or some zero waste type practices. Because once the kids get excited about it, that can help motivate a family to make some changes, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Ann, John, do you have any questions?
Jeff, no, I don't have any questions, just that I want to thank Amy for volunteering, and most of the questions I had, they were all pretty much answered in her comments in the past few minutes. Just want to, I think she'd be a strong contributor to the sustainability committee. It certainly comes through that, Amy, that you're very, very passionate and interested about it. You've got a lot of ideas, and they say that if you want to contribute and get something done, ask a busy person. You're a busy person with 3 kids, which means you're organized, and you'll find the time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ann? You're muted, Ann.
No, I don't have anything to ask. She's very passionate and effective at communicating her passion. It's great.
Okay. So can I get a motion?
So moved. I'd like to make a motion to elect Amy Lee Connors to fill the position on the Sustainability Committee, the term which expires June of 2022.
Okay,
I'll second that.
if we can change elect to appoint, that would be good.
Appoint, thank you. Friendly
Okay.
amendment accepted.
Okay.
And I'll second the amendment.
Thank you, John. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Ann?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So our typical procedure, Amy, so that you know, is that we interview someone and then we wait a session and appoint them at the following session. But I think that there's a need on this committee that's strong, and I've been in touch with Allison about this. So we've gone ahead and done this all in interview and appoint in one meeting. The good news for you is that your name is already up on the website as part of the committee.
Okay.
That happened so fast that we're not quite sure how it got up there so quickly, but I think that it's good news for you. So you should get in touch with Allison and find out when the next meeting is, and you're good to go.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Very much.
Thank
Thank you
Thanks,
for your
Amy.
interest and
Thank you.
thank you for volunteering.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay,
And Jeff, I think it's just the Tiffany's all that good.
you just think that the what?
I think Tiffany's all that good that she got it up there already.
Like even before we voted? Okay.
Maybe she has the SP.
We're going to move on to FY23 budget development updates. Greg, you want to take this?
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. So as I indicated in my memo, things are progressing. We'll have a presentation to you and the Finance Committee on December 14th. I'm hoping that is still a good date for everybody. That'll be a joint meeting with the Finance Committee, and we will present the preliminary budget. And the budget that'll be presented will not include a number of staffing requests. So we are bumping up against some pressures in terms of some increased workloads, and in the case of fire, a pretty significant decline in call firefighters. So the primary areas are in public safety. An increase in hours in the harbor master. We will show that in the budget as it can be funded through harbor master funds and not through taxation. Board of Health has a strong need. I'm hoping that we'll be able to use some of the additional funding that the state is making available, as well as some of our ARPA funding that can be used there. But for police and fire, it's a big stretch and difficult to free up or find dollars that could fund those requests. And so if we want to go forward with them, it would require going beyond the typical cap of a 2.5% increase. We do have some excess levy capacity so that it doesn't require an override vote, but nonetheless, going above and beyond that 2.5 number is significant. And so I wanted to give an early early heads up to that possibility and to give you ample time to think about that. Obviously, we won't finalize the budget until the end of February, 1st of March. But I did just want to bring an early heads up to some of the pressures. Obviously, as everyone knows, inflation has entered into things again. For us particularly, that means in energy costs and health insurance costs. We've had a good stretch of 4 or 5 years where we've been able to keep health insurance costs quite low. But the early projections are for medical costs to be increasing in the 8% range, 8 to 10% range, back to where we were a number of years ago. So that puts a lot of pressure on the budget, and it'll be more challenging this go around to have the budget within fitting within that 2.5% increase, which we tend to see as our maximum increase. So there are some options, at least for the short term. On the fire side, there is a possibility of pursuing what's called a SAFER grant. This is federal money to help hire additional staff, particularly when you're below some of those minimum staffing standards. But that's temporary. It would provide the funding for 3 years, and after that, we would be responsible 100%. So I'm not looking for final decisions tonight. I really just wanted to highlight that as we pull together the preliminary budget, this is what has stood out to me and staff this year. Is some of the some pent-up demand for staffing, partly driven most recently by some changes on the police side, changes in police law in terms of the police reform, which will make it much harder for us to retain reserves, which we use for backfilling officers who are on leave. And as I just said, on the fire side, having many fewer call firefighters being able to respond when the need is there. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have some insights as to how you think we should approach this. I'm obviously all ears, and would happy to get some additional information as we work through some of these issues. But I did want to take an opportunity to highlight this area.
Greg, I have a couple of questions. One is mundane, which is what's the time for the joint meeting?
7 o'clock on the
7.
14th.
Okay. And in speaking with Paula Filius earlier today, she mentioned that there's a conference call tomorrow on the BOH funds through trickling down through the state, through the mass ARPA, the mass distribution of ARPA funds.
Yes,
Is
correct.
that a call you're going to be on too?
I have a conflict, but I know that Ellen and Pam are going to be on that call.
Okay. Okay. All right, open it up to the board in terms of any questions about what Greg said.
Yeah, Jeff, I have a question. Greg, when you say excess levy capacity, how much capacity is that capacity?
Well, so we have over $1 million of excess levy capacity.
All right, significant monies. So I assume the budget is being approached as in previous years. At this point, you're expecting the school is probably going to come pretty much close to the 3.5. So you've got to shoot for 2. Get a 2.5 budget increase. Is that correct?
A little high because we do anticipate new growth, but yes, we would.
Okay, but you've got to, yeah, for the town, it has to come in below 2. So the school budget, which will probably be more than 2.5, it'll balance out to a total of 2.5.
Right, so like I say, it's a little bit
Okay.
more than 2.5 just because of the new growth figure, but yes, your point is
Okay.
the same.
Okay. All right, well, $1 million, that's significant in my mind.
Yes, it is. Obviously, to tap into it means people are having to dig deeper into their own pockets.
Yes, that's right.
Any other board comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
Nor I. Nor the cat.
Well, I was going to say, the cat looks like it wants a little attention. I think what's going to be important is to try and come up with a multi-year plan, because we're not going to be able to fulfill either of the public safety needs in 1 year. And have a plan going forward for how positions might be allocated.
We may need 2 plans.
Pardon me?
We may need 2 plans, depending on the dispatch decisions.
Correct.
Jeff, if I may.
Go ahead, Becky.
I think in addition to police and fire, the taxing of our harbor master has been getting much more extreme. So I think we're going to have to work on that one too. So
Right,
instead
so-
of 2, we have 3.
Well, right, so I did include a boost in harbor master staffing. It's a little easier to absorb because in essence, the harbor is self-funded through the harbor fees. So it's a little easier to manage.
I wasn't quite sure what you were referring to, Becky, when you said the taxing of our harbor master, whether you're referring to the allocation of fee increases to harbor users as a taxing issue, or the need for more staffing support.
Which one will get more for him? I'm just kidding. Sorry, I know. Poor choice of word. So
were you referring to his need for more staff support?
and yes,
Okay,
exactly. Thank you for clarifying.
okay. All right, at this time, I don't have any other comments about the budget issues. I think that I think we're facing some pretty big challenges in terms of increasing staff. And we'll meet on the 14th and talk it out with FinCom.
Yeah, I expect it to be an ongoing conversation until we get to the finish line of a proposed budget towards the end of February.
Okay. So unless there's other comments or concerns about that, our next agenda area is the BOS policy review. Now, there was some talk about passing over the review of current policies because of Eli's absence. I don't know whether you talked to him about that, Ann. I know that you've been pushing out updates and revisions of the documents that we've seen so far. Would you like to comment on the idea of passing over tonight?
I'm fine with passing over to. I would like to talk about the specific policy that's on the agenda, but I have no problem with passing over. Sorry it took me so long to get the
It,
cleaner drafts out.
it is not something that you need to be sorry about. You have been doing a yeoman's job or your woman's job, getting this thing organized in a way that we can
Yeah.
pass it around and review it and update it digitally. So
Mhm.
we really appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Thank you.
I did have a question, which I don't think we need Eli here to discuss. Which is, well, for one thing, we have from now until 7:30 before the next agenda item. And that also includes the exit interview policy discussion. But I did have a question in terms of how you want to tackle this with the full board. You've taken some comments of mine and John's and incorporated them into the beginning part of the policies that we all received initially. And how do you want to proceed in terms of breaking this out and coming to some kind of review of these?
I'm not sure that my taking and trying to integrate comments is effective. I'm perfectly willing to pass around comments if people, so people can see them, but the comments that I've got so far have been of really three categories. There are things that are obviously wrong, like we don't have an executive session secretary anymore, and we have 5 selectmen. There are things that are comments that are on the general line of, do we still do this? And is this what we want to do? Which are legitimate questions, but they don't really advance things very much, because it's pretty obvious to anybody who reads some of these that we don't do this, and we need to think about whether we should or whether we should get rid of the policy. But I think that's something that better done in an open discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And the other is that there are typos and misspellings, which I preserved as an archivist, effectively. Yeah, obviously we can get rid of those at some point, but so I didn't find that trying to integrate those comments individually was very helpful. So what I suggest that people do is take the document and either put in Word comments or, print it and write on it so that we can be prepared for a discussion, and I'd like to have Eli here for this next part, but I will say my suggestion is that we just agree to take a small number of policies starting from the beginning and just do them at every meeting. And if we find one that's hard, put it off, but just start going through them. I don't think we can take more than 3, unless we're really lucky and get 3 really bad ones. 3
Well, in total, we have over 42 policies. So,
yeah, about 50.
yeah, so that's,
It's not going to happen quickly.
it's not going to happen before the end of this fiscal year. I wonder if we could just get our feet wet with, in the beginning, some of these have already been replaced.
I think it's about, it's at least 42, excluding the ones that have been replaced.
Okay. So if we did 6 a month, then that would, the ones that come later in the list are much more complicated.
They're more complicated, but they're also more current and more, it's more likely that we in fact are following them. And the one of the more recent ones is the awarding of chairs and other tokens to people who are leaving. I would, when we get to that one, it will be easy. And the memorial bench policy is not hard. So I think we'll find that the hard ones are the ones in the first half, where
It lays down groundwork for procedures.
because, yeah, we're not currently following them. We need to decide whether we should follow them or whether we should do something else.
Okay. Since the first two have been replaced, do we even need to discuss them?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay, so we would start at 87.1 and work from there.
Yep.
I'd like to suggest that we put onto the agenda for next time 87.1 through 88.2. That's 4 policies.
Okay, and
And
if we
we'll see
don't
what
get,
we get.
if we don't get through them, we can kick the can down the road.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so is there any other comments that Becky, you or John want to make about what Ann and I were just talking about in terms of picking off 87.1 through 88.2 for next time?
No, I think that's a good start. And as we go along, sometimes we can increase that or decrease it as needed.
And-
So is this going to the meeting of the 20th?
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we had a specific date. Thank you.
yes. And I think that if we preview the policies that we're going to be reviewing in the subsequent meeting, if one of us is going to be absent from a meeting, then they can provide written comments and we can go ahead and proceed and not be in the position that we're in tonight. But I think that Eli, having been in on this from the beginning, I thought it was important that he be here before we really get into the swing of it. So that brings us to the exit interview policy that was just brought up this year. And you had some comments that you wanted to start with on that?
Well, the serious comment that I have is right now the town is relatively flush with cash. Town hall is well staffed. I'm sure Greg would disagree with that somewhat. I'm not sure that we will always have a human resource person. I think when things get bad, that will be one of the positions that's most likely to be cut. And that's critical to unless we can find some other way of filling in the policy that if there is a human resource person, they do this. Otherwise, I agree with the position of the policy that having your direct boss handle your exit interview makes the exit interview less useful in the case where there's been a disagreement between the employee and his supervisor. And those are my thoughts.
Okay. Any comments from other members of the board?
Jeff, if I may.
Go ahead, Becky.
The part 5, where the exit interview responses from the administrative secretary or to the Board of Selectmen and town administrator, I had a little trouble with that. And I was wondering if somebody could just kind of read that as it's intended to be written in full.
Okay, this is Scott on the copy that we received today for today's meeting, substantive changes from what was proposed last time. I'm not sure where those changes came from.
Those were
Right,
those were my
Okay.
suggestions for changes.
Okay,
So I
Wow.
listed the positions. So the executive secretary, grants and special projects coordinator, and the communications coordinator, as well as department heads. Those being the direct reports to me. So instead of me sitting down with the HR person and the department head and reviewing under these positions, it would be me and the chair of the Board of Selectmen sitting down.
Okay. In terms of going over the responses, correct?
Right,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. And to Ann's, thank you. To Ann's point, if we don't have a human resources person, and I agree that the direct person in charge should not be conducting exit interviews, who would that fall to, or how do we designate someone to do an exit interview if we don't have an HR person?
So we could add a line or a staff person assigned for those duties. So that might be, it could be the treasurer collector, it could be our
It's a
finance
little,
director.
it's a little loosey-goosey, I think. I mean, it could be, that could be perfectly fine. It just seems a little non-specific.
So who does the exit interview with the treasurer collector if the treasurer collector resigns?
I understand the concern that the human resources position may be eliminated
Mhm.
in the future. But I think we're trying to write a policy based on that concern.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I don't know that that's the best way to do it. I think we write the policy with the human resources officer doing the interviews. And if we reach a place where budget-wise, that we're cutting staff, and one of the considerations is cutting the human resources human resources officer, that we readdress the policy at that time. I don't think that we have to expect that this policy is not amendable, as obviously was the case with several policies that were changed subsequent to their implementation.
And several others, like the one that names Charlie Lane specifically as who you report an accident to, just
Yeah.
get ignored.
Well, I don't think it gets ignored. I think that we have to go back and revisit it and figure out, okay, how do we do this now in a way that the person who's going to be asked to do an exit interview feels like they can say what they want to say without speaking to their direct supervisor.
What if the person is not the human resources officer, it would be, or a person so designated by the town manager? Because it could be any of probably several people, and different people have different skills in this area. And it might be different people at different times. That could be the treasurer, or it could be the assessor. It could be someone in a position of pretty strong responsibility, but also probably has a skill set for this.
I would like to suggest, if we're going to go down that road, that it would be, if the human resources officer's position is eliminated, that a person designated by agreement of the chair of the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator.
That's good. That's good. I just think that if we say, oh, we're going to have, it's the whole the whole program has to come back to the selectmen for review, and what are we going to do about this? This all takes time. And sometimes when somebody's going to leave, and you've got to make some decisions fairly quickly as to, okay, how are we going to handle this? And I think we should put something in place that will deal with that. And what you've described, Jeff, would work.
Okay, so the language I would propose is if the HRO position is vacated, exit interviews will be conducted by a third party, mutually agreed upon by the town administrator and the chair of the board.
Where would that language go?
Number one. Is that acceptable, Greg?
Yeah, that's fine.
And we'll have town council check this as well.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
Okay.
Got another question, Jeff.
I think we need to do a time frame for this, so that this exit interview is conducted 2 weeks prior to the person's last day, and we need to deal with the issue of employees that are dismissed as opposed to retire or resign. There needs to be some consideration of that. We need to try and figure out how do those employees fit into this, knowing that there's going to be a different kind of attitude in the answering of any questions that are submitted. But I'd like to say, when people submit their resignations, Greg, I know sometimes it's, I've got another job, I'm leaving, I'll be gone on Monday. But I don't know how often that happens. Hopefully less often than not. But they give you some notice. Particularly in these positions that we're talking about. So it's 2 weeks ahead of time to do an exit interview. Is that reasonable?
Yes, normally that should be fine.
Yeah, okay. So where do we put that?
Again, it could be part of number one, just expand number one.
I was thinking it as a lead into number 3. The intent of this policy is that the exit interview would be conducted 2 weeks, a minimum of 2 weeks prior to the employees.
That's hard if somebody doesn't give you 2 weeks notice.
Yes, obviously.
So what happens if somebody leaves suddenly and you can't meet the policy because the policy says 2 weeks?
Then you can't meet the policy. Well, I mean, if you say the intent of this policy is to do it 2 weeks in advance, that gives you wiggle room to do things when people have less time. I mean, obviously, if somebody gives you very little time, they may not even want to participate, and this is not a
Right.
mandatory
Mhm.
interview.
Are we creating that 2-week, 2-week cutoff, Jeff? Because I don't see that in the copy. I would
It's not in the copy.
It's not in the copy, and I would say the interview must be conducted within 2 weeks of the departure date. I mean, somebody can say, I'm going to leave a month from now.
Right.
You know, you don't want to interview them now. You want to interview them as they get closer to their departure time. So
I agree.
and I wouldn't have a problem interviewing them even as late as the day before they leave.
Mhm. I agree with John.
Can I go in a sort of procedural direction?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm beginning to have a lot of. Can we decide whether or not to accept Greg's changes, except in number 5? Just.
Well, number 5 makes sense if you get rid of all of the markouts, but I agree it's a little confusing if you're trying to make sense of it.
Number
Or-
5 has the, yeah, okay.
Okay, unless you have a concern about the content.
I'm
don't-
good with that, Ann.
Okay.
Well-
I'm good with number 5 as,
Well, hold on a second. The intent of number 5, as it was originally written, was that the positions of department heads, excuse me, of executive secretary, and the other people who directly report to Greg, would be first reported to the Board of Selectmen and then to the town administrator.
Right. My proposal is that that happens simultaneously.
And why did you change that, Greg?
I think that as your town administrator, I think I should know just as soon as you know.
I think I agree with Greg.
My concern is in getting, and the reason that, and since I wrote the original policy, is in getting information from people who report directly to Greg. That if they're going to say things in their exit interview that they were uncomfortable in their work situation, about things about discomforts in their work situation, and then that gets reported to Greg before they leave, then we're not going to get any kind of honesty in their answers to those questions.
One way of
I mean, I
solving
don't have
that,
a problem with this if the sharing happens after the person has left.
Mhm.
But I don't want to put them in a position where they're sharing information, and if it's something that's uncomfortable to them, you know, Greg can hold off and wait for the praiseworthy comments. I know that those are going to be comfortable for him no matter what, but but things that are uncomfortable to an employee in their relationship with Greg are not going to come forth if they're going to be in their position
Jeff,
with Greg
Jeff.
knowing about that.
I'd like to interrupt here, and this policy, as opposed to referring to Greg, this is really a policy for
The town administrator.
anybody.
The town administrator.
Thank you, because that's what we're discussing here, and I don't want this to be misconstrued for anything else. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm
That's
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to personalize it in that way. And I apologize to you, Greg, because I'm not trying to do that. I'm just thinking administratively, if I'm leaving my position and I have some things that I want to say about my supervisor, who's the town administrator, and I know that the town administrator supervisor of mine will know those things before I exit, I would be very uncomfortable in saying some of those things.
Can we change the policy generally so that the report comes is returned from whoever does it after the employee leaves? The interview can be done much earlier, but it's held until the employee leaves.
I think that's probably a good idea, and I'm just thinking through this, and in my experience, I've generally seen exit interviews the day that people leave. And the point that you're making, Jeff,
Okay,
that doesn't necessarily just apply to the town administrator. It could apply to anybody's supervisor. They make certain comments.
Yep.
To a third party, and then that just becomes kind of public knowledge, and they're going back to work tomorrow, knowing that's there.
okay, so we can eliminate if the agreement is that the comments regarding direct reports to Greg, to the town administrator, are going to be reported to both the town administrator and the chair of the Board of Selectmen simultaneously, we could eliminate the whole section 5 and add to section 4, the results of exit interviews will be communicated to the chair of the Board of Selectmen and to the town administrator within some time period after the employee has completed their work.
I think that solves the problem.
Retired or.
But it should be a specified amount of time, like within 3 business days or something like that.
Yes, I'm just giving, John's saying the interview happens right before the person leaves. Within a day or two. I'm trying to give the human resource, be kind to the human resources officer that they can get the job done. So 3 days. Is that reasonable, Greg?
That's a target date, sure, three business days.
Yeah,
3 to
we
5.
need to be careful
5.
that the business days are the days when the town hall is open. Many people think Friday's a business day.
But within 5 business days is perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
Going back to the beginning, should we add they retire voluntary, I would take out voluntary, but resign, are dismissed or move?
I've dismissed, or what was the last one?
Just add are dismissed between resign their position and or move.
Yeah,
And you're putting that where?
Second to last.
Second to last.
In the
first
list.
paragraph, third sentence. After the comment voluntarily resign their position, comma, are removed, comma, or moved to a different department. Do you see that?
Yep. Okay. Except that's the preamble. That's not in the policy itself. Does that matter? Should that be part of the numbered policy paragraphs?
I think the whole thing is part of the policy, Jeff.
It's a preface,
Yeah.
preamble. I think that can stay.
Okay. So we're eliminating 5?
Yes,
Mhm.
and renumbering 6.
Very good.
Okay. Let's see if we can get a clean copy of this, and we'll do one more reading.
I got one more question, if it's still on the agenda here. We've still got a few minutes, a couple minutes.
We're actually right up against it, John, but go ahead.
Okay, but just quick question. Do we have a core exit interview, interview questions that we use? Maybe Greg, do we? I mean, number 2 says questions may be submitted, but I assume that there is a core basic list of questions that are asked.
Yes, we do. I can share that with you if you like.
Okay, but maybe that should be referred to here in number 2. It just says questions for exit interviews. I think maybe there ought to be a sentence that, we've got a questionnaire and it may be supplemented with additional questions from interested parties.
Jeff, will we do the
I would
next?
put a time frame on that too, to say up until 2 days before the exit interview is conducted. Because I don't think it's fair to the HR person to have questions thrown into the interview process.
But the HR person should be allowed to throw questions in if there's something that needs to be followed on.
Right, but that should be able to happen 48 hours before the actual interview, don't you?
Not if something comes up during the interview that's problematic.
No, I'm not suggesting that, Ann. What I'm suggesting is the department head said, hey, I've got all these questions that I want to have asked in the exit interview, and they don't give them to the HR person until the morning of the interview.
Maybe use language should be submitted, something like that.
Should be submitted 48
Okay.
hours prior to the interview.
Not absolute drop dead, just should be submitted, so people know that's.
Agreed, because some things do come up, as Ann said, not necessarily always in the interview itself.
I'm not
But-
concerned about in the interview itself.
I understand, and that's why I'm saying that things do come up even.
Yeah, people
you
think
know,
of things,
after-
that's okay.
Exactly. Are we going to do the second reading on the 20th?
Yes,
Okay,
it'd be a third, actually.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Hopefully we can scratch this out and get it to be clear from all the comments that have been made. Any other comments on this? All right. Moving right
Hey,
along, and I see
Diane.
she's been busy at work while we've been chattering. Our next agenda item is resident stickers and beach stickers. Diane. Or
Good
Greg,
evening, everyone.
who's
Hey,
doing it?
I think I am, unless Greg wants to talk.
No, you're ready to go. So take it away, Diane.
I'm always ready to go. It could be a problem. I want to thank you guys for letting me come in today. The past 10 months have been awesome. I've only been here for 10 months, but I feel like I've been in that office almost forever. It's been great. People are wonderful. Town hall is wonderful. Just wanted to let you all know that. One of the things that I noticed. in
This
the
is
months
not
that-
your exit interview, Diane.
Okay, I was listening to that pretty carefully. One of the things that I noticed that seems to be a little bit problematic for the residents as well as for those of us at Town Hall is the sticker process, the difference between the resident sticker and the beach sticker, and the process to get them, where they go, how do you get them, etc. So I've spoken to quite a few people in our town hall as well as outside of our town hall, different town halls. And I think I came up with a proposal that I think would streamline the process for both the residents and the staff. I think it would be easier for people to understand and just better all the way around. So my proposal is actually that we eliminate the beach stickers and we go with a resident sticker. A resident sticker would entitle all residents whose cars are registered in the town of Manchester by the sea to all the assets in the town. That would mean all the resident parking areas, the use of the transfer station, as well as all the beach parking. So that right there, last statement was the big change. The benefit for doing the resident sticker is that we can do them through our Kelly and Ryan or City Hall Systems program, which runs our excise tax bills. So the excise tax goes out, I believe, in February, the major one. And then, of course, as people change their cars, it goes out throughout the year. But it would also kick out a resident sticker, a computer-generated sticker for the vehicle. And that sticker would, again, give those cars access to all the assets in town. The advantage to doing this for the residents, it would be the stickers would come in the mail. They don't need to do anything. They don't need to fill out any forms. They don't need to come in, although I like when people come in, but that's another story. It's a little bit more efficient. It's a little bit, it's not a little bit, it's a lot more efficient. It leaves very little room for anyone to misuse the stickers, change the stickers from one card to the other. It may decrease the income that we get from sticker sales, and I know that might be a sticky issue. It may also increase the number of our residents who actually use the beach parking. These are all possibilities, not necessarily. But the bottom line is that it's just a change that will make it easier for residents. Most of the people that I spoke with, Greg primarily, also the police, and Andrea in the accountant's office, Cheryl in Parks and Rec, no one really thinks that we're going to lose a lot of money if we don't charge our beach sticker fees. We will still be selling, you can park for free, but you can't get on the beach for free. You still need your tag. So you would still need to buy the tags. And I believe that we just increase those fees a little bit. Yeah, I think I could go on and on, really telling you how good I think this idea is, but I wanted to open it up and see if you had any questions or what your thoughts are or what you're thinking.
So currently, when I, as a resident, get a sticker from my car, I get 2 beach stickers. I get 2 beach passes.
Correct.
And that costs a certain flat fee for the sticker and the passes.
Mhm.
I like the idea of just getting a sticker that says I'm a resident of the town of Manchester and I've paid my excise taxes, thank you very much. And I get access to certain town services as a result, including parking at the beach. What I'm concerned about is that means that instead of paying a flat fee for the 2 stickers, that I end up paying $25 for a seasonal sticker, a seasonal pass to the beach
Mhm.
for each resident in my house. If I'm a family and I have 3 kids, that's going to cost me $125.
If they're between 5 and 65, yes.
If they're between 5 and 65.
Mhm.
That seems a little steep.
But that's what it currently is. You get two tags with your
Right.
beach sticker.
And you pay.
I pay $10, but I'm old.
So you are getting an amazing deal right now. So right now, the cost is for a beach sticker, it's $35. And that includes your parking at the beach as well as 2 beach tags. The beach tags up until next year were $20 each. So you were getting a savings. So we weren't really making any money. If the financial piece comes into it, it is a savings for the residents as well. To your point, it would be really nice, but do all 5 people say in your family go to the beach together? Maybe you don't need 5 passes. The passes aren't by name, the passes are per household, right?
No, but they do have 2 cars. So they'll have 4 passes automatically for
If
70
they do
bucks.
it that way, 4 passes automatically for
that is-
$70.
That is the typical,
$70.
I think that's the typical family. They buy their passes with the 2 stickers on the car, and that's as far as they go.
Correct. Correct. So the problem with that is
So
that,
it's
so the process of buying the sticker is you either fill out that form and come into town hall and we process it, we open it up and we write it with a Sharpie, you know, on the, of your license plate, and you ideally take that and just put it on the car and don't move it. That you don't take it off, use something that you could change the number, put it on a different car, or not actually stick it on the car, just tape it on the car. Little things like this could happen. With the generated resident stickers from the company, they are not
Then you
they're
can't move.
tamper- right, and you can't flip them from car to car because the numbers are large enough that the police or the guards, the gatekeepers at the beach can see the numbers and the license plate pretty easily.
So question, that's if they come in person, but they can also do it online. Is Kelly also the people that we work with online when we want to get
Yes.
to each? Okay, and I've done that the past 2 years.
Mhm.
What percentage of people I'm just trying to get to the bottom line in terms of how many people show up at your window now, because if they all need beach passes instead of car stickers, they're still showing up at your window. It's now
Which they
that
can still, right. So
yes,
they
they're
still do,
showing up.
you can still do that online.
Okay,
What
all
is,
right.
I don't know, because I don't know what it was before.
I'm curious,
So,
who's
right,
online?
so
Yeah, how many?
The process has been, what I forgot to say is that it's been a little rocky, the process over the past few years. One, for the situation in Manchester Town Hall. This past year was a situation at City Hall Systems. And then the changing of the guards in the town clerk's office has made, it's been hard to really judge. It is very busy. It's a constant stream of people. I'd like to figure out a better way to do that. And hopefully I can do more specific times, you know, for beach stickers, et cetera, but you want to, you know, people are used to just coming in and getting it. You could, but you can still do it online to get the tags as well. To the same company.
But you don't have a
But the
handle on.
difference is, John,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference is, John, that there's these are gonna come with your excise tax bill.
I understand. So that's one less thing you got to spend online for is going to come automatically.
It's gonna come automatically, and also it's gonna mean that you're paying an excise bill in Manchester.
Yeah, but that's because your car's registered here, which is what they look for anyway. You know, if you come down in person, you still got to have a car registration in Manchester.
I think the second year we had it online, we were doing around 30%
that's
online versus in person.
I'd say that's progress.
So I do have concerns due to the kind of mess up we had this year with the stickers not actually being sent out for a big chunk of time, that people may be fearful of doing it online next year just because of that. You know, you have to give them a little time to get more used to it again.
Is this a one-tiered system?
I don't know what that means, one tiered.
As a non-resident, do I pay the same for a seasonal pass that a resident pays?
A non-resident right now pays the same seasonal pass. It's $20. Well, next year, I guess it'll be 25, but. And they will still be able to park when it's when it's allowable. And I'm not sure if you raise the parking fees up there at the beach. I can't remember.
I think that it's way too cheap for non-residents. If I go to Good Harbor and I want to go to Good Harbor, I have to pay like, I think it's $35 now to park. And then I don't need a sticker or anything. I can go onto the beach. But it's $35 for every time. And town residents, obviously, city residents obviously get a beach sticker.
Right.
In some way. But to be charging non-residents $25 for a seasonal pass, or $35 even for a seasonal pass, I think it should be about 50.
That's up to you as well. That doesn't sound like a bad idea.
Because I think it's unreasonable that residents pay the same as non-residents to use the beach that residents' taxes support. And I know Greg is going to correct me and say, no, beach fees do that. But if you look at summer 2021, we lost $21,000 on the beach, and that's residents' taxes that are supporting it.
And Diane, that drop for this season was primarily due to what? Beach passes or car stickers? Or both?
I think the Greg can help me with this. The cost of using the online system, more people using the online system, we pay a fee for that.
Aha.
So the more you use online, the more it's going to cost us too.
Because I like your idea of it's going to be cheaper if you go online up to a certain point during the year to push people in that direction. But if that becomes a point of diminishing returns because it's costing us, and I don't know what that cost is, but it's a good idea, I think, in general, to push
Right,
people.
well, anytime
do
there's
it.
an early bird fee, right?
An early bird, or get them to do things electronically rather than having the labor intensive activity at the window.
Right. That's part of proposal 2, if you didn't like proposal 1.
I saw that. I just ran this by a couple of, well, let me call them relatives. And yeah, they immediately saw what the deal was in terms of, oh, so it's going to cost more for beach passes. They didn't like the idea.
Okay.
But there's a certain reluctance just in general in terms of, hey, it's always kind of worked for us before, but And I'm in Ann's situation. Yeah, I'm a senior, but
Mhm.
I have kids that come and visit, and they take my car and go to the beach with my beach passes. And I'm not alone in that situation. I go to the beach in my car with my beach passes, but you know, not all of us are necessarily at the beach at the same time. So that's just the way it goes. So
Right.
it's not a stranger. So my kids, it doesn't make any difference. It's free for them, but still, we saw my wife certainly saw the math, etc. And so, because I'd want to chat with some people, and you because you get some noise, I think, no question,
Oh, yeah.
no question.
I mean, any change is going to be difficult. I just want to make it easier for most people, more efficient in my office, and make it work, really.
I think it's a great idea to do the bulk through the excise taxes. And I agree, I don't think we charge enough to non-residents. I think that, you know, we are paying, as has been said, and I think it's absolutely reasonable to increase the non-resident fee.
So the non-resident fee, when you talk about that, that's the day fee or the seasonal fee? So you did,
The seasonal, well,
The
actually
seasonal.
both for that matter. You know,
Right, so-
it's
that's going to be a tough one to raise, to know whether it's a resident or non-resident, you know, the day fee down at the beach.
absolutely, but
Right.
you know, one thing at a time. Let's stick with the stickers.
Okay,
think-
all right.
And I think Jeff's right that the non-resident sticker should easily be twice what it is for resident.
So you mean pass? There are no non-resident
the
stickers. Right,
Right. I'm sorry, the non-resident.
I know.
I'm having
Lingo
a
is very
rough time
difficult.
today.
How much of this revenue is non-resident beach passes? You have any of these metrics?
I know I did. Greg, do you remember that one?
Yeah, I don't remember those numbers. We can get them for you, John.
I think these are kind of important numbers to know where things are. I still am interested in the revenue. How much was beach pass? How much was the car sticker out of that this year? 145, and then also how much were non-resident passes, mostly seasonal. Not
Can
daily.
I make a suggestion?
Sure.
We're talking about two separable issues.
Mhm.
One is sending out resident stickers with the excise, and the other is the cost of resident season, non-resident season passes, and day passes. In order to get these out get the resident stickers out with the excise tax, we need to act quickly.
Mhm.
But we can take up the issue of the cost of a day pass, the cost of a resident pass, the cost of a non-resident pass later. And I think we can come up with a solution that means that nobody is paying any more with this system. No resident is paying any more with this system than they would under the current system, plus or minus whatever adjustment we make, because we don't charge enough to anybody. So
And you're very good at,
I suggest
just
that we talk now, we decide now whether or not we want to go
Mhm.
with resident stickers and put the non-resident, the pass situation later, and involve Andrea and have more numbers on who pays what when. So I move,
You're talking about going with either option 1 or option 2.
I move that we go with option 1,
Mhm.
excluding any issue of the cost of a pass.
I agree. Well done herding cats.
Okay. So you can't just agree. That was a move. So
I
that's a
moved.
motion.
I second the motion.
Second the motion. Any further discussion of that motion?
Yeah, I've got a question on that, Jeff, then. So Diane, is the cost doing it with sending out stickers to everybody as opposed to people that are going online, and I don't know what our cost online is that a pretty efficient way to go, excluding your labor burden dealing with stickers?
The question being, going with the company doing the resident
Excise.
stickers through the excise tax.
Right,
Is
right.
that a cost-effective way to go?
Yes.
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
So essentially, the incremental cost of doing a sticker in the excise tax mailing.
How many stickers? Yeah. How many stickers is that compared with, well, it's the number of cars that they're going to be sending out. How many cars are registered here? And I don't know how many of them get stickers each year. In other words, you're going to have to send out more stickers than the number of stickers that are currently sold. There are a number of residents that don't get a sticker, I'm sure.
Well, at some point during the year, most people do. They need it for the transfer
Yeah,
station.
yeah, or
you know.
parking or something.
Yeah,
Okay. So I assume that's, I don't know, 5,000 cars.
I think it's about, probably a little
Yeah.
bit over than that. I can get that number from Jen.
But does that change what the motion is, John?
No.
Okay, so
Yeah, the only question was,
so let's keep the discussion to the motion because we got the motion in front of us. And we can get that information. Is there any other discussion of this motion? To go with option one with actual beach pass costs to be set at a later meeting? Yes?
Sounds fine.
Ready to vote?
Mhm.
Ann,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes,
chair votes yes. Okay, so we're going to do the stickers through the excise tax mailing. And they'll go out to all residents with a vehicle. And do we need to take up any of the FYIs?
the only question I have is how will people who lease cars
Mhm.
find out that they need to do something special?
So I will have to do some publicity. I'll have to work with Andrea, get something in the Cricket. Anyone that leases a car or rents and their car is not registered here, they would have to see the town clerk's office directly. And we would have to do it that way. That's really the only way to do that.
would those be different stickers then, or would you have?
No, they'll be the same.
Okay,
Who pays the excise tax on a leased vehicle?
Sometimes it's usually the company, Toyota or Honda, Lexus.
They pay it to the town of Manchester?
Yes. And then in
But
the lease,
the
they put
person
that
who's
excise.
leasing gets billed for that. I lease a car and they give me a nice bill for the excise tax.
Mhm. You pay the
I pay.
company, yeah.
Yeah, I pay Volkswagen, right?
Mhm.
So, and that's what all lease car deals are.
And Gail, when do you get that?
Well, I got it, I leased my car in April and I got a bill within the last 2 months for the period of time for this year. And next year I'll pay it at the same time everyone else's excise taxes bill due, I
Okay,
suspect.
so
But-
if people bring in their paid,
Well, they have the
leasing-
registration. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but if
have
they-
the registration that says I'm,
I'm more concerned about the revenue to Manchester.
oh, you get it. You get it from the company.
Do you want them to bring in their notice from the company that they've paid their registration?
I didn't
Okay,
think about
then.
that. I'm gonna have to, I'll check with Jen. I mean, normally we go with their registration but we can always check right across the hall with Jen to make sure that they're all paid up.
Because the car is registered in Manchester. It has to be registered in Manchester, correct?
No, I don't know where it's registered, but it has a garaging location.
Okay. I don't want to go through all the FYIs. I think we've given you direction in terms of the option one. The information that's been asked by John and others regarding what information do we need at this point to move forward in terms of fees?
Wait, you want me, are you asking me? Or are you asking your?
No, I'm
gang?
asking the board.
Okay,
We want to know what the breakdown is between resident season passes and non-resident season passes.
Okay,
I'd also like to know if we're talking about increasing the cost of the non-resident season pass, what the day of pass costs are, so that we're the person who purchases the season pass is getting somewhat of a deal over the day walk on or the day of pass. Does that make
How would you-
sense?
is there anybody who gets a day walk on pass that you don't have the data on whether that's a resident
That's true.
who
That's
lost
true.
their sticker, correct?
Okay.
correct.
All right. Never mind.
So we could have the day pass be 15 and be 50 for the seasonal for the
Right.
non-resident and have the seasonal for residents be 35 or whatever.
And when are we moving this discussion to? Are we going to put something on now or at another time?
How are we looking on the 20th so far, Greg?
It's possible on the 20th. I would just like to check with Cheryl to make sure I can get, I think it'd be helpful to have her at the discussion and get the data together for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll aim for the 20th and answer your question, Becky. And if Cheryl's having trouble getting the data together before then, we'll go to the 3rd.
Could I
Sounds
ask for
good.
one more piece of information from Cheryl? I understand the problem of determining whether somebody in a bathing suit is actually a resident or not, as they're trying to buy a pass at walking into the beach. Is there the same problem with us if they're buying a season pass as for a day pass?
I'm not sure what the question is.
So I think the question is, so a season pass you would have to buy at the town clerk's office. And at that case, since there hasn't been a difference between the non-resident and resident, any season pass has been the same amount. So we don't really know. My recollection just this year, there are very few season passes that go out to non-residents. I'm not even sure people really know about that. I think maybe they just go and pay that minimal $7 to get to the beach. You know, they get off the train, they walk up and pay $7.
Thank you.
I didn't know we had them.
So if you can think of anything else that you want Cheryl and I to work on, you can always email me, but I think I wrote them all down. I wanted to thank you for listening and understanding and going with a new system for the resident sticker. The FYIs that I just put in there, really, I was just trying to streamline everything again, just wanted to make you all aware of that. And if you happen to see that there's something you don't like, you know where I am and we can discuss, and I can come back anytime.
I'd like to make a suggestion that in terms of anything other than incidental communication beyond this meeting of this change in policy, that we wait until we've got a fee structure for the tags before we do a announcement through the cricket and
Mhm.
uh,
Okay,
social media, etc. Not that I'm trying to withhold information from the public, but I just don't want it to become confounded and confused because we don't have the fee information for stickers.
I would think that's a great idea. The more we can put it all together and throw it
Mhm.
out as one big change as opposed to little changes coming every week, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Good. Let's move on to our next item. Thank you very much, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item
Thank you,
is
Diane.
Our next item is the COVID update and mask items for, mask requirements for municipal buildings. Greg?
So in terms of COVID update in general, everyone certainly is waiting anxiously to hear more details on the new variant, this Omicron. See how severe the illness is. I think that's the big question, and obviously how effective the vaccines will be against it. So we are waiting anxiously for that information, and that'll determine a lot going forward here. Our case numbers certainly have climbed. That's true statewide. The number of cases has more than doubled in the last few weeks on a daily basis. For November this year, I think we had a total of 40 cases, whereas last year we had 34 cases. Not a huge difference. Percentage-wise, it's a little high, but 6 more in a month. We continue to do well. People are getting vaccinated. They are vaccinated. People are getting their booster shots. The younger children are getting vaccinated. So that's all very good news, and really want to encourage that to continue. So for folks who haven't gotten their booster shots, they should sign up and get that scheduled. If they have children 5 or older, those kids really should be getting vaccinated as well. That's the big message coming from both the state and the CDC. I think it is important to stress that even though the mask mandate, since the mask mandate has been lifted, it doesn't mean that it's all free and clear and you don't have to be cautious. I think there is a little bit of a concern that we're seeing a lot less cautious behavior in terms of gatherings. It's a real desire to sort of get back to normal holiday gatherings and whatnot. But we still need to be cautious. Even when you're vaccinated, you can get sick. The vaccine will prevent you, hopefully, from getting very sick and keep you out of the hospital. But even vaccinated folks do get COVID. And a very strong recommendation is to continue wearing a mask when you're indoors in crowded places. So I think it's worth stressing that we are going to see a pretty significant increase in cases, and to combat that, we continue to need to be cautious and to take those measures that can help us avoid getting the disease. So I'd like to just stress that to folks. I was on a mayor manager's call today with some specialists from Harvard, and they're very concerned about people letting their guard down and the rise in cases. Nationwide, we're still, we're back over 1,000 people dying a day. In Massachusetts, the hospitals are filling up with people who have COVID. So as much as we all want this thing to all be behind us, it's not behind us yet. And I'm hopeful that the new variant will not be more severe in terms of the illness that it causes. And I'm certainly praying that the vaccines are effective against it. But we just don't know. And so we need to be extra cautious because of that. So having said all of that, I do encourage you to require masks in the public in our town buildings, our municipal buildings, so town hall and in the library. I don't feel it's onerous for folks to have to put on a mask to come into town hall to do business. Typically there for a short amount of time in and out, but it does give an extra assurance to staff that they're being protected while they're seeing a wide number of range of residents. Same with the library. So I do encourage you to support a motion that says that municipal buildings masks are still required, and that that would stay in place until mid-January, and you would revisit it at that time. You could revisit it at your meeting on the 18th of January.
Any comments from the board?
I've got a question, Jeff.
Go ahead.
Greg, what are your thoughts about our hybrid meeting situation, which may kick off on December 20th, where we will have people after hours, but in the town hall after hours, and how that masking policy might affect those get-togethers, which right now are going to be, what is it, to anyone in the public who wants to show up, or is it strictly committee people?
So it's designed to be committee people or
Petitioners.
applicants, or people who are on the agenda specifically.
Okay, all right, understood. Okay.
But the idea is that the general audience would remain virtual and participate through Zoom. I think we should require people to wear masks at the meetings.
Does that include the committee people as well?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, that's just a long meeting, that's all. I'm just,
Right.
it's not in and out as you described, the daily 9 to 5
Right.
activity in the town hall.
So we, again, I think we need to be flexible there and wait and see what comes of the new variant. If it is more severe and the vaccine's not as effective, then we may need to stick with Zoom only.
I have sometimes a hard time understanding people who are talking through masks. It may depend on the mask. And my inclination would be to leave the meeting on the 20th as entirely Zoom, if the alternative is to meet in the town hall with masks. Other committees may make other decisions.
I'm inclined to agree with Ann. I think we can see everybody here on Zoom, but we're all going to be masked up on Zoom, which I agree creates a certain level of difficult communication.
Those are good points.
The original intent of the hybrid meetings was that committee members would meet in person without masks, socially distanced. And that people with business before the committee, in the case of the ZBA, the Concom, Board of Health, would be able to come into the meeting and be socially distanced. I think if we're going to require that there are masks in municipal buildings, that moving to the hybrid with masks on doesn't gain us anything. I mean, I look forward to the day when we can all sit in a room together and meet as the Board of Selectmen. But I would tend to agree that it's much harder to understand people when they have masks on. And we're not gaining anything at all by meeting in person if we're meeting with masks. And I know there's been a lot of effort put in and time and expense to set up a hybrid model. But that intent was that there would be socially distanced, unmasked board members.
Well, in longer term, I see us always having that hybrid option.
Yes.
I think public likes this ability to be able to easily listen in. So even when there's not a pandemic, I see us doing hybrid meetings.
I think,
So the question comes from both Ann and John then, Greg. Do we have a committee option whether to meet in the hybrid?
Well, given what's happening right now, maybe we need to put that on pause. And we need to continue with Zoom, as much as I know we're anxious to move on, but
I don't see her name. I don't see her name on the board in front of me. But I think you're going to get pushback from ZBA on this.
right, no, I know.
And possibly from the other boards I mentioned. I don't know about the Board of Health and Concom. But those would be the ones who would have petitioners.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Jeff? That if a board is not meeting, if the entire board is not meeting in person, I don't think you should have some board members on Zoom and some not.
Yeah, I would agree.
but perhaps it could be up to each, if all members of a board agree that they would prefer to meet in person with masks, then I think we can let them meet that way, unless conditions get worse. But
Jeff,
But-
do you need a
But are they
motion?
going to be, are they then
Oh.
knowing that meeting in person that they're going to be wearing masks?
if we agree that municipal buildings require masks, then they're going to be masked.
Okay, now, this also applies during the daily operations of each office. And I've been in town hall and walked by the offices, and people are sitting alone in their office without a mask on. You know, the protective barrier is there on each of the offices for interactions with the public. But within the office, including the office of the town administrator, there are times when I've walked in and Greg's put on his mask as I walk through the door.
Yeah, so if people are alone, if people are not interacting, we've said it's okay to take off your mask when you're in your office alone.
Okay, then that needs to be part of this policy.
That's how we've been operating from the get-go.
Is that because of the HVAC? The ramped up air system,
No,
that you can do that? Right.
Well, I mean, in part, yes. I mean, it's if you're alone in your office, there's not a lot of risk. And the new system does a much better job of circulating air and air exchanging, so you're getting good air exchange.
If someone is going to go down the hall to go to another office, they'll need to wear a mask in the hallway and in the other office.
Correct. That's what we've been doing. Now, is that 100%? Maybe not, but that's been the intent.
That's, the alternative is for each person to have a water glass in his office so that he's drinking and therefore need not be masked. At least that's the way this has been interpreted in several places that I go to. As long as you have a glass of water in front of you, you don't need to wear a mask.
Well, I don't want to go there yet. Thank you. Does this apply to the fire station?
So
The municipal building?
so the fire station hasn't been open to the public. So it is a little different that way.
So if I need to get a fire inspection and I go down the fire station to schedule it, I can't get in?
It typically will meet you at the door. But we're not, people aren't coming into the station.
Okay. Does it include the dispatchers?
Again, they're in a single office. So when they're alone, no, but when they're with other people, yes.
When you say other people, Greg, my impression is there's a lot of interaction in the offices, but it's like one-on-one. And most of the one-on-ones, people aren't, they're work colleagues and they're probably interacting without masks. I think they are probably in most instances, but it's a one-on-one situation.
The expectation during the mask mandate for access to any public access building, including businesses, was that the workers would have their masks on at all times. That service people in a restaurant, that employees in a retail outlet would have a mask on at all times. Not just when there was a customer in the room. I'm just trying to get clarity, Greg. I'm not trying to anything else. I mean, the whole idea of this is that we're trying to protect people from a potentially very aggressively infectious variant. How do we do that?
So again, while you have mentioned some nuances to it, the general policy is that if you're coming into town hall, the expectation is that you will wear a mask, and that when staff are interacting with the public, they are wearing a mask. And that when staff are interacting with each other, then typically they will wear a mask.
That when, I'm sorry, you said when staff are interacting with each other, they will typically wear a mask.
Correct.
So that would mean pretty much all the time in the police station, since those rooms are all interconnected.
Right, but they're not always interacting. If the chief is at his desk and dispatch is at their desk, they don't need to be wearing a mask.
Okay.
This is Chuck. Is this going to be open for discussion? I'd like to just say a couple things, if I could.
Chuck?
Yeah.
As in Chuck
DPW?
Dam?
Yep, Chuck Dam, DPW.
Sure, Chuck, absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, and if we're just talking about revisiting this in January, then so be it. I can live with that. I do suffer from chronic COVID fatigue, as I'm sure you all do as well. And I just think that there's something to be said for the fact that we're almost 2 years into a pandemic that's had several different variants and several different variations of lockdowns and not lockdowns, and coming back and getting things right. And at this point, I mean, I just had my booster shot on Saturday. Most people, if not 100% of town hall employees, are likely vaccinated. I haven't gone around to take a poll, but I'm fairly comfortable in saying that. The general population is very well vaccinated. I'm not opposed to wearing masks if we're going to put a date on it and just see how this new variant goes. But in general, I would say people are pretty much where they're going to be in terms of preventing or not the spread of COVID. So, in my personal life, I make decisions to go places or to not go places based on my comfortableness with, what I suspect the odds are that I will contract the, COVID or not. That, from things that I have to do, such as grocery shopping, and things that I choose to do, like going on vacation or the like, or family gatherings. So I guess I'm just to the point now where I trust that people that are coming into town hall have a level of understanding what they're coming into. And I certainly think that the people that work at town hall know what they're, up against, or, their comfortableness with things, which is why we have the barriers in place, why we have, social distancing. So I guess I'm just, as someone that is in town hall pretty much every day, certainly Monday through Friday, I'm not so much seeing the benefit of requiring masks to certainly all employees, but even the general public that comes in. Especially in the long term. In the short term, I guess I could wrap my head around it. But I just wanted to offer that as sort of where I'm at with all of this. As someone who is in most days and also an office of 4 that really has no alternative at the moment, I won't get into the ins and outs of how we get by every day, but we've managed to do it this far. And so I think there's something to be said for people's own level of comfort with these things. That's all.
I think we've got a couple of issues going on here. And I don't know which one. One is the question of whether committees can meet in hybrid mode with masks at their choice. I think that's a fairly straightforward thing. And perhaps I can make a motion about that. And then we can go back to the question of masks in town hall in general. Does that make sense to anybody?
Sure.
Okay. I move that committees may continue to operate in purely virtual mode, or can meet in hybrid mode if every member of the committee agrees to meet in hybrid mode and wear a mask.
Second.
And you want to tie that to a date that I think Greg said mid-January or so. Is that what
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, Greg?
Yeah, I
January.
suggested your January 18th meeting.
And to be reconsidered on January 18th.
Second,
How about to expire unless extended?
Kind of like the Board of Health angle. That's good.
Fine. I
Fine.
restate to expire on January 18th unless extended.
second,
Further discussion? Roll call vote. Mr. Round,
Yes.
Ms. Harrison,
Yes,
Ms. Jakes,
yes,
Mr. Bodmer votes yes. Okay, so now we're back to town hall itself.
mhm.
And I'd like to make a motion that masks are mandated in public hallways of town hall. And for residents and staff in offices when residents and or staff are meeting together.
Second.
Does that capture it, Greg? And with, excuse me, with the expiration as to expire on January 18th unless otherwise extended.
I would love to include the library in that.
Yes,
municipal buildings,
No,
That gets-
because then you've got the fire department and you've got the DPW yard indoors.
so just the library. In addition to town hall,
Yes.
yes,
And the library is a place where there's much more public
Mhm.
interaction with staff.
We call Seaside 1 as part of town hall, I assume? Yes. Yes.
Throw it in there. Okay. You got that, Gail? Any further discussion?
I just woke up.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Ms. Harrison,
yes,
Ms. Jakes,
yes,
Mr. Round,
Yes.
Mr. Bodmer Turner votes yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thank-
thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Jeff.
sorry, Chuck.
Okay, so we have a consent agenda and we only have the meeting minute notes for October 18th. Just as a comment on those notes, there was some things that Todd was going to follow up on regarding dispatch, questions that John had, et cetera, in the notes, the minutes for that meeting. And I spoke to Todd today about where we are with that, and he said he'll have those ready on the 20th. Answers to your questions. And we have approval of the election officers. And a motion for the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Motion, second,
Moved by Ms. Harrison, seconded by Ms. Jakes. Roll call vote. Ms. Harrison,
Yes,
Ms. Jakes,
yes,
Mr. Round,
Yes.
Mr. Bodmer Turner votes yes. We have a public notification of Comcast changing prices dated November 18th. Did this just come to us, Greg?
Yeah, what's the stamp date on that? But it came in after your last meeting.
So for all of you who are Comcast subscribers, including internet subscribers, prices are going up. We don't seem to get much ability to control that, and it concerns me. But
Yeah, you have basically zero control.
yeah,
The same that we get with National Grid.
well, we do, because we could say, no, you can't have a contract in our town anymore. But that would make a lot of people upset. Okay, so let's move to the town administrator's report.
Okay, update on dispatch. We are finishing up the data gathering portion of the feasibility study that North Shore Regional 911 Center is conducting. And we've gotten most of the information to them. They're analyzing our current operations and our IT setup, and we'll be diving deeper into their analysis. I'm hopeful that we'll have a report back from them by early February. And so it's in their hands in terms of conducting the study. We're feeding them the information as they request it. And they're plugging away at it. And as I say, I'm hopeful that we have that report by early February, and then you can decide how you want to proceed from there. Update on the compost facility. Again, had hoped to have a contract ready for you. It's not quite ready. We're very close. We hope to have that before you for final approval at your meeting on the 20th. Assuming it's all a go, then the vendor will have up to a year to construct a new facility and have that new facility up and running.
Are there substantive issues, Greg, that are holding that up?
At this point, no, it's really just a few more I's to be dotted. It's my understanding. Chuck and Nate have taken the lead with the lawyers, town council and the vendor's lawyer. And they've been methodically working through various issues from insurance to close out in case of poor performance, that sort of thing. So just taking time to walk through all those issues and get the language that is agreeable to both sides. So I'm hopeful that we're very close to wrapping that up and can get that underway.
And I hope that we will get to see that sooner than the Thursday or Friday before our next meeting.
I'm happy to give you the version that we have right now. I think it'll be very close to the final version.
That would be great.
Sure.
Because I think we really need to take a close look at this contract and make sure that we understand what we're approving.
Yeah, let me get to the draft that it's currently in, and like I said, I'm pretty confident that there won't be substantive changes beyond what's there.
Thank you.
Regarding National Grid, you had asked that we have representatives from Grid come in to talk about storm response and their overall resiliency to storms. Particularly, are there better ways for Grid to bypass a particular down wire area rather than having that wipe out an entire section of town? Can you backfeed different ways so that there's a little more redundancy to the system? So that's one major issue. And then generally, how do they better harden their system so that it is not so susceptible to storms, and whether does that mean some better clearing of the lines in terms of the closeness of big branches that can come down, et cetera. How do we harden up our utilities, the electric grid, so that we don't have to be down for 3 or 4 days in a big storm. So they have asked for a time in January to come in to talk. I'm trying to push them for your December meeting, but they are asking for January. So I'll have to see how that works out for their schedule. But at the latest, we would have them in at one of your meetings in January to go over that.
Are we aware of whether these issues are issues in other towns besides Manchester and how they've dealt with National Grid about it? I mean,
Well, I don't think we're
towns that are
alone.
close by,
Yeah.
let's say our butters.
This last big storm, we certainly were not alone. Many towns experienced. I mean, Hamilton was, I think, they were percentage-wise, they had a higher number of people out, and for just as long. So we're certainly not alone in the area. I mean, I was out for 2.5 days here in Gloucester, so it's a problem all over.
Okay.
And lastly, just update on the 40B. The ZBA continues to hold hearings. Their next one is this Wednesday, where they will focus on choosing some of the peer review consultants that they'll be using, specifically on traffic and some environmental concerns issues. The ZBA expects to be meeting a couple of times a month, starting in the new year, dealing with the process, with the hearing process, as they start diving into the details of the project and reviewing the various aspects. So that process will continue. We are still waiting for the state's response for our request for safe harbor. Recall that the ZBA did submit a letter to DHCD, the state, asking for granting a safe harbor based on the progress that has been made. A little unconventional in terms of the progress, because the units at the Potter House Lane complex are not officially on the SHI, as we've discussed in the past, because of the issue of having to have new tenants in through the lottery selection process that's required for affordable housing. So we haven't heard back from the state. Their deadline is the 23rd, I believe, of December. So we'll hear by then, if not sooner, what their response is. The applicant put in their response arguing against our request, and which is obviously not surprising. And it'll be up to the state to render a decision.
Greg, are you aware whether the ZBA is going to have a second meeting in December after the 8th? Or are they going to go over to January?
I think they're going to go to January, but I'm not positive about that.
Okay.
I don't have a second date in December at their meeting, but they'll make a final determination of that at the meeting on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I have just two quick announcements, if I can, to add to that. So tomorrow, actually, there's going to be some boring excavation work at the Central Street Bridge Culvert Dam, whatever you want to call it. This is not the construction. They're just doing some additional confirmation of utilities underground as part of the design engineering work. So it should be just for a day if we're lucky. One-way traffic will be maintained, but people will have to alternate. So we will have traffic control there. And they hope to get at it tomorrow and finish up tomorrow. So there will be a little bit of a delay there. But again, that's just part of the design and engineering work. It's not the construction project getting underway. We're still waiting to hear on the FEMA grant. And if that does come through, then we're hopeful of being able to start construction next fall. And lastly, the Memorial School, they're having their official ribbon cutting and having an open house for people to see the new building, to take a tour. So Wednesday evening or Saturday morning, there's public hours for folks to take a tour of the new building. I haven't had the full tour, but I've been in a couple of times. It's quite a building. I think people can be quite proud of it and will enjoy what it has to offer. So those are what I wanted to go over, unless there's any questions.
May I just make one comment regarding the ribbon cutting? Everybody probably already knows this, but the ribbon cutting is tomorrow morning at 10 at the school.
Right. I'll be attending that. And Becky will be attending that. And Greg will be attending that, I assume.
Yes.
I can make that. I'll be there too.
Mornings are hard, but I'll try.
That's all right. That's all right. Any other questions regarding the town administrator's report? Well, this is an odd circumstance. I have no other matters that have not been reasonably anticipated by the chair. And just a reminder, the Joint Finance Committee meeting is on the 14th and starts at 7. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I think it's because I wasn't here that we did this so quickly.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Round,
Yep.
Ms. Harrison,
Yes.
Ms. Jakes.
Yes, please.
Chair
And well
votes-
done.
The chair votes yes. Thank you all.
Good night, all.
Thank you, Gail. And good night.